Welcome. Oh wait, we're supposed to introduce ourselves. Marthaim Sanders, AIJ Cast.
Hey, Mona Haydar.
I have a couple questions I'm curious about. One is, I know you transitioned from poetry into rap, and I'm curious about that transition and what inspired that.
So I've been performing my poetry for 15 years and writing it since I can remember. And poetry is a medium that I really, really love, and it's like I feel like it's a part of my DNA. And I sort of felt like we were living in a moment when music has always been so powerful.
Yeah.
But we live in a moment when, like, popular media and music specifically is something that can really change the world and, like, can turn the tide. And I just sort of felt like the world needs as much love as possible, and if I can offer that love in a bigger way, in a more accessible way, then I have to challenge myself as an artist to do that. And so I was really just hoping to make my message more like it's the same message from my poetry to my music, but to just make that message more accessible to everyone. And so that was the hope. And from what I've seen, it's been successful.
I think it's resonated really well.
People love visuals. People, like, not as many people will, like, listen to a poem or, like, read a poem as they will, like, watch a music video or listen to music. And something in my heart told me that if I could, I should.
Was the shift to video, did you make that at the same time that you started doing rap, or was that a different manifestation?
I really just, like, it was experimental to see, like, what music would be like for me. I grew up, sorry, I know, the sound.
Don't worry about it. They have to fix it in post, so just keep going, unless the train goes by.
Literally, like, I had to figure out if I could even do it, you know, and so for me, it was totally an experiment, and I had to see if, like, how it felt. For me as an artist, it's all about, like, the feeling.
It had to be authentic.
Yeah, and if, you know, like, I grew up with hip hop, so it wasn't that, like, it didn't feel like a part of me, but I didn't know if it would be a part of, like, my journey in how my art was shared.
As expression,
Yeah, because I grew up believing or being taught that music was forbidden.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so I didn't grow up listening to music. And so to have that sort of be my background and then to suddenly be like, oh, I think I want to do music, that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, I'm curious. I didn't know. Tell me about that transition from music being haram, something that's forbidden, to something that's become a career.
Yeah, it was rough. It was something that, again, I just felt like I had to really sit with and study. And so I really did study the issue of it being, like, permissible, impermissible. And I asked teachers, and I sat with teachers, and I really tried to do my due diligence. And I came to find that it felt good for me. And there's a hadith, a saying of the Prophet that says that, like, for the one who is in the work of challenging the ego, like, seek the counsel of your heart. Even if the world around you is giving you counsel, because your heart ultimately will tell you what you need to know, and it is the direct channel from you to God, and where your messages come from, and you know, it's where that God conversation happens, and you need to trust that, because everybody's job in the world is different.
Right.
And you know, I just have never believed that, like, one size fits all. And that isn't to say that, like, the rules aren't applicable here, but that there are the rules are beautiful and life affirming and beauty affirming, and that we need to work with them in beautiful ways, and that the tradition actually supports that, you know. So.
And then bringing video into the mix, was that was part of the experiment as well?
Yeah, I was like 8 months pregnant, and I was like, this would be a good time to shoot a music video.
Yeah.
Somehow that made sense in my head.
It does in retrospect, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see how.
Well, no, I did it on purpose for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was, like, you don't often see an 8-month pregnant body in a music video
Right.
challenging the narrative of like what women in a music video are supposed to look like.
Right.
The stereotypical like video vixen, the objectification of women. And so I was just sort of like, you know what, if I'm gonna do this, I'm just gonna do it, and I'm gonna try to subvert as much like garbage as I can, and to say like, this is a good body, and I'm here like in the fullness of what my body looks like right now, and doing it, doing what my life's work is. And people like commented on the video like, is that safe? Or I'm like, yeah, whatever, like, or like, it's so weird that she's pregnant in the video, or like so awkward, or people would be like, oh, that's cringy, and I'm just like, yeah, you were in a lady's body once,
right.
And like, I'm sorry if you find that cringy, like, so sorry that you were born of a woman, like, so shameful, like, get over yourself.
Well, it's funny because when I watched the video for Hijabi, that I noticed that, and my first thought was, is she making a political statement? And then realized she's pregnant. That's like, this is not a fake pregnancy that she's doing for the sake of a video. This is real. It's who she is, and there is something inherently political in doing
Women's
that.
bodies are unfortunately a huge field in the political sphere.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Global patriarchy and toxic masculinity is so afraid of women's bodies and issues relating to women's bodies, and I'm just like we need to be done with that. Like, all the way yesterday, yesteryear, century. Like, it's so trash. And that sign, I saw the sign for trash. It's right in front of me.
That's very good.
And that's why I said trash.
All right, see if you can work recycle into it.
Right. But I'm just not here for all of that stuff. And like, in any of the ways I can support women and any marginalized community, vulnerable people, creatures, beings, earth, like, I'm gonna do it, because the more affirmed and beloved we all feel, the more beautiful our entire world is. And like, it's selfish of me to be building a more beautiful world, because it ultimately affects me too.
Yeah, sure.
And I receive all of that grace and love right back. So I'm in that work, and I hope to stay in that work and continue to challenge myself in those ways of making those political statements that challenge people and that work on subverting systems of oppression.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I could have waited a few weeks to have shot my music video to after I had my baby, and to like get fit and get my, like, what do they call it, to like get snatched, or like whatever the term is, but I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
I believe in like, good bodies are bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
The right bodies are all bodies.
Right.
And that, if I can't live by that, and I can't do that in my own life, then I just should shut up. And I can't be a real advocate and ally unless I'm living it and I'm doing it. So I had to put my money where my mouth was.
Right.
So I did, to my own chagrin.
Yeah.
Because now there's a video out there of me like swollen and pregnant, and like, the most people who have ever seen me have seen me that way.
Right.
So, sometimes you gotta be careful what you say, because God is funny and has a good sense of humor.
One of my favorite songs of yours is Dogged.
Thank you.
And I would love to hear, because clearly there's a backstory that led to that song.
Yeah.
And so I'd love to hear about that.
I mean, I just felt like the most authentic way to tell a story is to tell it from your own community, like from where you come from, your own context. Yeah. And so speaking to global patriarchy and misogyny, to men in positions of any kind of authority, and specifically religious authority, as a religious person, speaking truth to domination. Like, I just had to be like, you know, like, you guys are nasty, and I'm not okay with that. And so telling a story saying that, you know, like, the song was deeply connected to real stories of, like, sexual assault, sexual abuse, any kind of sexual misconduct, just really, really disgusting behavior. And I wrote the song about 3 years ago and put it out, and it was sort of crazy because, like, months later the Me Too movement started.
Right.
And it was just this, like, yes, like, we're all having this conversation, and all of this stuff is coming to light because it has to, and we're just in this moment of like, regeneration and revolution and upheaval, and, like, if we're not in that work, we're kind of wasting our lives, because that is the work that needs to happen right now, is really building and growing love and genuine justice, and not just us, you know, but justice, like true justice for all.
Yeah. I'm curious, what brought you to Wild Goose?
A few years ago, it would have been my friend Gareth Higgins, who's, I think, was one of the founders of Wild Goose. But this is the first year that I've managed to make it work, and so it's just been such a blessing. This year it was Wisdom Camp and Mike Morrell, and we just made it happen and, like, worked it out to like, I could be here for 2 days, and it's just been such a blessed 2 days, and I'm just really grateful.
Yeah. Tell me something from your experience here that you'll take home with you.
I think just the small conversations and interactions with individual people and hearts, and I think it's really meaningful to have interreligious dialogue, interspiritual dialogue, because it's something that, like, the inter-conversations, like the intra-conversations are so important, and the inter-conversations are so important, and, like, there has to be a balance between both, and you need both to happen.
You got to be able to talk to your family, and then the families, you have to realize that your family isn't as small as you think it is.
And sometimes you have to invite people into your family.
Right. Yeah,
and you have to invite people to your table, and to say that, like, hey, like, I want you to come and talk to my family because you have some experience that we don't have. And I just feel really, like, blessed that, you know, Wild Goose is open to hearing from a Muslim. And I look forward to seeing more of that kind of work happen here at Wild Goose. And it's really inspiring, honestly. Like, people really do challenge themselves here to talk about race and poverty and immigration and you know, the difficult parts of our being here as Americans on native land, and, you know, conversations of, like, global slavery, and so just, like, all, like, the refugee crisis and separation of parents from children on the border, and, like, all that stuff is alive here, and it's connected to conversations that are happening around conversations about God. And I think that those conversations are inseparable.
Yeah.
And so I'm just grateful to be taking home, I'm grateful to be taking home the fact that this work is happening. Yeah. And, like, that there's so many doing it.
So we talked a little bit about this, but there's this clear connection between faith and religion and justice. It's one of the 99 names of God is justice.
L'Adl.
Yeah. And so what is it that you think it is about art in particular that sheds light on justice?
Yeah, I think the intersections of art and social justice are so important. I think if an artist is not speaking to their context and their current climate and to injustice, they're not truly connected to their community. And it's very easy for artists of privilege to just say that, like, I just do art. I'm just an artist. I just do art. I don't talk about politics. that's not called being an artist, that's called being privileged. And that's called not using your privilege in a way that is honoring true religion. And true religion true religion condemns that. True religion condemns the separation of any identity lines and borders. And true religion combines that and says that it's all connected, and that we need to be doing that work, which is affirming of those differences and of those, relationships, and how do we work together in our identities and bring those things together. It's like a tiger is not orange or black. It's like orange and black, and it's all of that at the same time, and you can't say that a tiger is like orange with black stripes or black with orange stripes. Right. It's a tiger. And I think being an artist is to be speaking to the moment that you are living in. And
being an artist is a tiger.
I don't know.
There's a fierceness to it, I think, right?
Yeah, I think there's a fierceness to being alive.
Right.
Artists or not, there's a fierceness to being alive, and that we all have this spirit inside of us that is telling us to go out, be alive, and do your work, and affirm life and goodness and generosity and beauty in the world, and that, that is the work. That is the work of being alive. That is the work of being a breathing being, having this experience of consciousness, and that anything that's not doing that is not really being alive. It's being whatever. It's being whatever. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
It's surviving, not living.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I don't know.
Last question.
I feel like that's really judgy. But, I think it's okay to say, people need to be more concerned with others.
Yeah.
And to stop seeing others as others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to see ourselves in those we consider other.
Yeah.
And that the more we do that, the more we are alive, and the more we function as beautiful beings of love and light.
If you had advice for people about what you've learned in your journey, particularly about following your heart, what would it be?
I think solitude and stillness are so important, the contemplative path, and really just being with God and with yourself, and allowing for silence and that space and time to hear yourself. We're surrounded by so much noise constantly. We're constantly playing music, or not that those things are bad, but to take time for silence and stillness. I think it's so great that here at Wild Goose, people don't have cell service.
Right.
That everybody's sort of off grid here, and you just don't see people on their phones. And not that phones are bad, but that it's good to have balance, and that it's good to have time where you're doing this and where you're doing that. And it's so healthy to just be with people and be with other hearts, and to be with the earth, and silence and stillness and quiet and meditation, contemplation, all that is good stuff for anyone, and I really recommend it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.